everyone, and welcome to YMCA of San Francisco's Classrooms for All. My name is Alex, and today I will be your S.T.E.A.M instructor in showing you how to make elephant toothpaste right at home with materials that you might have right with you at home already. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take my mask off because I'm all alone in this space and it's safe enough for me to do so. And if you want to take your mask off, if you're in a safe space too, go right ahead. All right, so STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. And today we're going to be doing the S in STEAM in the form of chemistry. So we're going to be making a chemical reaction happen right inside of a jar that I have right here and that you can do right at home with me. So what you'll need for today are 2 glass jars or an empty bottle, water bottle or soda bottle that you might have at home. Today I'm using something more fancy because I have it on hand, but these are volumetric flasks, and this one is 250 milliliters and this one is 200 milliliters. So we're going to use these 2 today because they'll make a fun looking reaction right inside of these. What else you'll want is a tray because this could be a really messy, explosive activity, and we want to make sure that we keep our workspace clean. So I'm going to use the tray to catch all of the mess for today. You also might want a funnel to help you add the ingredients into your bottles or flasks like I'm using today a lot easier. You'll also want a little bit of dish soap, some food coloring, any colors that you want, some measuring spoons. Today I might use a couple of these, but you can also just eyeball the ingredients because that's what makes science fun. And then we will use some active dry yeast, some yeast that you might find at the grocery store or you might have in your pantry right now. We'll also be using hydrogen peroxide. So you can use 6% hydrogen peroxide, which is a lot stronger than the one that you can find at home. That's the kind of stuff that you can find at hair salons or in beauty supply stores, and they might sell it. If you are using 6% hydrogen peroxide, please do not touch the mixture once it happens. It will make it really, really warm to the touch, and we don't want you to get hurt. Today, I'm going to show you how to make it with 3% hydrogen peroxide, which is so much safer and which is the stuff that you can find right at your local Walgreens or grocery store, or that you might already have in your medicine cabinet. Something else you might want are 2 glasses so that we can do our mixture. I'm doing 2 reactions, so if you're only doing 1, you only need 1 glass. And then you'll want a few tablespoons, probably 3 to 6, depending on how many reactions you're using, of water. Warm water we will need today. So I already have my warm water in this glass, and I might just transfer it over as I go today. All right, so if you would like to follow along with me today, go ahead and follow with me step by step through this awesome science activity. If you just like to watch, that's okay too. You can do this at your own time with your family or friends later on. All right, let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to place your bottles or your glasses right on top of your tray. So we're going to keep this workstation very clean. And you can go ahead and put that off to the side for a little while we get everything else prepped. So the reaction's not going to happen yet. And the first thing we'll want is to grab an empty glass. And you can take a whole packet of active dry yeast. Today I'm going to get a little crazy and use a whole packet. A whole packet contains about 2 tablespoons or a little over 2 tablespoons of yeast. And yeast is something that we use to cook with, especially if you're baking bread or things that need to rise in the oven. Yeast is used mostly for baking delicious foods and cakes and breads that you might have at home. So today we're going to use it as part of our experiment in helping something rise in our reaction today. So what I'm going to do is open up this packet, and this might make an even greater reaction since I'm using a whole packet. At home, you can just use 1 tablespoon of yeast, but I'm going to go crazy and use 1 whole packet of yeast for each of my glasses here. So today I'm going to do two elephant toothpaste experiments here. So maybe I'll do less yeast in the second one, but we'll see how it works out with this one. Next, you'll want to take your tablespoon measure or just a spoon that you might have in your drawer at home. And you'll grab that warm water and you're going to want to put at least 3 tablespoons of water into your yeast cup that you have right here. So go ahead and scoop 1, 2, and 3. All right, so you'll want to stir that up a little bit so that yeast gets dissolved. So I'm going to just use another measuring spoon that I have on hand to just mix it all up. So we're using warm water because warm water helps to activate that yeast, so it makes it kind of come alive and start to bubble up in your glass. So what we're going to do is let that reaction start to happen naturally here while we get everything else prepared. So go ahead and let that sit for the next few minutes while we prep the rest of the activity today. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our hydrogen peroxide, and in your glass, I'm going to use this funnel here to help me pour it in neatly into the glass. I'm going to open up my hydrogen peroxide, and you'll want to use about half a cup of hydrogen peroxide depending on how big your bottle is, but I'm going to just eyeball it today, and I'll probably fill it up about halfway to the middle of the bulbous part on my flask here. So go ahead and, whoops. Of course, that tray is here for a reason. If you make any messes, it's going to catch everything like you just saw right there. So hydrogen peroxide is used normally at home to clean any scrapes or boo-boos that we might have at home. It can be used for so many medicinal purposes. So right now, we're going to use it for a chemical reaction, just like we're using the yeast that we normally use when we're baking at home. So right now I have about half of my volumetric flask filled with hydrogen peroxide. And actually I'm going to keep that funnel in there for the next part. So you can put that hydrogen peroxide aside. And I'm going to squirt in some dish soap. This one you can just put a few squirts in. This is going to help our reaction really come to life. So it'll be sort of a catalyst to make things go faster. That's what a catalyst is. We'll make a reaction go a little bit faster. So we're going to go ahead and let that dish soap fall into our glass. It's probably just a couple squirts of dish soap that you'll need in there. Now that my funnel is nice and soapy, I'm going to pull that out. And then since I can't really reach that, I'm going to go ahead and just swirl it around to stir it all up. And you might already see some bubbles forming in there. And that's okay. It can get pretty bubbly when you add soap to any mixture. So go ahead and swirl, 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 swirl. Okay, so now that it's kind of mixed in, I'm gonna pick what color I want my elephant toothpaste to be. So this is the fun part for me because we're gonna make it a little artistic. So we're gonna use the A in STEAM today and make it our own art piece. So what I have here is some food coloring. I have all the primary colors. So I think what I want to make is some green elephant toothpaste. So I'm going to take my green food coloring, and you can put about 5 or so drops of food coloring into your glass. Cool. And then go ahead and do another swirl, swirly, swirly, swirly to mix it all up. All right, so this is our first half of our mixture today. So what we just did, we combined hydrogen peroxide with some dish soap, and now we put some food coloring in to make it really pretty and to pop right here, right in front of us on the screen today. So let's see what happens when we add our last ingredient. So before you're ready, make sure it's all stirred up so that you have whatever color you chose today. You can mix colors today. This is your part to make it unique to you and to what you want it to look like today. All right, so now it's time to take that bubbly yeast mixture that we made, and I'm going to place that funnel right in here again because the opening to this is really small and I don't want to miss any of my mixture. But this is going to happen really, really fast. So we're going to count to 3. And then we're going to add our yeast and water mixture to our flask. All right, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh my goodness. So like I said before, it's going to make a big mess. So if you can see right now, it looks like giant green slime all over my tray right now. And if you guys want, go ahead and you can kind of touch it a little bit. Since it's hydrogen peroxide, that's 3%, you can touch it a little bit and feel it. All right, so what's the science that's happening right in front of us? So not only are we seeing this foamy chemical reaction happening that kind of flew over and made a huge mess in our tray, but it also felt really, really warm to the touch. So there's a couple different things that are happening right now. So when hydrogen peroxide mixes with the yeast, that yeast becomes the catalyst. So I mentioned that word before. A catalyst is something that helps speed up a chemical reaction. So the yeast helped to speed up this chemical reaction that was happening inside of here, and it kind of isolated or took out or made the oxygen remove itself from the hydrogen peroxide mixture, and that came out in the form of this awesome bubble mess that we have right here. So all these little bubbles that you've seen kind of foaming up and out are filled with oxygen. So if you've ever done any of my science experiments on here, we've made a lot of carbon dioxide, which is that stuff that we breathe out of our bodies every day. We made a lot of carbon dioxide come out of chemical reactions, but today we just made oxygen come out of this chemical reaction, which is really, really awesome. And then the second thing, when you notice if you touch the glass, so I'm just getting my hands nice and dirty right here. If you touch the glass, it feels really, really warm. And be very careful, if you're using the 6% hydrogen peroxide, do not touch the mixture. Make sure you're using gloves if you are touching it. And then even if you don't feel comfortable with it, you do not have to touch it. But maybe once you've cleaned it up, you can notice that it feels really, really warm to the touch. Not super hot, just a little warm. And that warmth is what we call an exothermic reaction. So an exothermic reaction, it didn't necessarily create the foam, but it created heat too. So this reaction between the chemicals that we put inside of here, the yeast and the hydrogen peroxide, and even that soap, and even that warm water that we put in there, created an exothermic reaction, which is just a fun word or fun saying to mean created heat, right? So let's make one more before we're done today. And I'm gonna go in super speed so we can do this really quickly. And maybe I'll wipe my hands off really quickly. Now that I've back and wiped my hands off, I'm gonna open up this yeast packet that we have on the side. So go ahead and use that same glass that you had and add that yeast into the glass. One more time, we're gonna make one more happen. And like we mentioned before, 3 to 4 tablespoons, if you would like, of water, warm water, to make the reaction happen. All right, and then mix it all together. Make sure to make plenty of a mess, even if we have our tray. This is science, and I'm already getting my table messy today. The next thing we did was we let that yeast rise, or kind of not rise, but to react with the water and to bubble up to get ready for our reaction. And now I'm using this tinier flask, so maybe we'll make a bigger reaction in this tiny one. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that same amount. You can use about half a cup, depending on the size of the cup that you are using, or this jar that you're using, or empty bottle that you're using. So right now I'm just eyeballing it and putting a bunch of hydrogen peroxide in there and letting it go all the way to the bottom. And it might have some leftover yeast in there, so there's creating some kind of foam a little bit in there. So it's gonna have a little bit of a reaction in there already. Oh no. And then we'll get that soap in there before it starts to rise. Oh my gosh, we're already having a reaction. So let's see if we can stop the reaction a little bit. This might be an explosive one today because there was still some yeast left in the funnel that we were using today. So that's why it's already having a reaction. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my food coloring, can't forget that. So I think I wanna mix some maybe blue today before it makes a huge reaction. Let's go ahead and don't forget your food coloring. Oh, and it's already making a mess. This is great. Mad science right in action. And then the last part, if you can, like me, I have a huge crazy mess right here, so I'm gonna pour out some of that foam. And then I'm gonna try to add my yeast right in there and see if it will make a reaction. Whoa! Oh my gosh, so this one, the yeast barely made it in there, so now it's kind of a slower process, but it still made a really cool reaction in our tray today. We have some swirly mixes. Maybe if I emptied out the contents, I still feel the warmth from that exothermic reaction that we had going on in that first experiment that we just did. So this one was a little chaotic, a little bit crazy, but that's what science is. It's kind of fun. Chemistry gets really messy and really cool, and that is what elephant toothpaste is all about today. And I think they call it elephant toothpaste because sometimes the things that you use, like these volumetric flasks that I'm using today, look like elephant trunks, and maybe this looks like the toothpaste that we would use to brush an elephant's teeth. Something nice and foamy and colorful, just like this. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me in STEAM today and making elephant toothpaste right here on YouTube with the YMCA of San Francisco. If you would like to join us for more classes, you can go to ymcasf.org/classrooms-for-all. We would love to see you there. Goodbye and have a great day.
Did you know that YMCA of San Francisco never closed? When shelter-in-place happened, we could no longer provide in-person programming. We quickly shifted to provide youth and family programming virtually. As early as April, we started providing on-demand activities in our YMCA of San Francisco YouTube channel.
For this video, we're going to be making a geodesic dome.
Today, we're going to be making a hovercraft. The science around this activity is really awesome.
In addition, we have a regular schedule of activities for our youth and families to join live. We feature read-alouds, yoga, family Zumba, arts and crafts, drawing clubs, and more. So don't miss out on our virtual youth and family offerings. Visit www.ymcasf.org for more info and class schedules.